Welcome back! Now that you've practiced and have a few opening lines, let's make it into a complete piece of content with this really simple storytelling framework. I like to call it TTP, which stands for Transformation, Transition, Process, and Action. It works really well for captions, threads, newsletters, and carousels. And the best part is you've already started writing these with the exercises from the last two lessons. So go ahead and choose a transformational hook that you already wrote to get started. Or you can create a new one right along with me in this lesson. So quick refresher, a transformational hook is an opening line that sparks curiosity by showing a clearer before and after, or a current reality versus an ideal outcome. So the goal is to get the reader asking themselves, how did they do that? So there is an example from the hook writing worksheet in the last lesson that I'm going to use here, and it says, I used to roll my eyes at the woman running down the block at 6 a.m. What was she running from? I joked with my husband. But deep down, I was jealous that she was able to stick with an exercise routine. That was 6 months ago. This week, I am running my first half marathon. Here are 3 steps that turned me from the snarky woman on the sidelines to the proud woman in the race. Okay? So this TTP, a framework, hinges on the line that's underlined, the very last line here, and it's called a transition. It's called a transition line. And it says here are the 3 steps that turned me from the snarky woman on the sidelines to the proud woman in the race. So if you're a copywriter, you probably know this line as a before and after bridge. And if you're not a copywriter, the technical term doesn't matter. The point is that the transition line takes the reader from the transformation that we stay way up top in the hook to getting them to think, how did they do that? I can do this too. So we're giving them a step, and it piques curiosity because it's a hint and a solution that the readers want. This is a similar shift that they want in their life. So this framework is really perfect for showcasing your expertise because it segues really nicely into presenting your process or your approach or your offer and even a way of thinking. So let's try it together. Please follow along with me in the corresponding worksheet. You're also going to find a template there and more transition lines to plug and play. So you could dust them off. And there's a lot of variety there too that you can customize. So this is a first step framework, and it starts with that transformation that we already talked about. And really what you're going for here is what is the transition line, or what is the transformation your client aspires to. So this could be something that you achieved, or it could be something that your client achieved. So in this example, I talk about how this woman was somebody who laughed at people for running, and then she became the runner. All right? So in this example, I say it takes about 6 months. Your timeline doesn't have to take that long. This could be Joanne was struggling with her coaching business, and then within 60 minutes, Zoom call, we were able to get out a plan for her for a whole month. Like, here's what we did. So again, you can shorten the timeline on this, and it could be about a client. It doesn't have to be about your personal experience if you don't want it to be. The point is that there is some clear transformation right up top in the beginning, because that's what's going to spark the curiosity to get people to read the rest of your story. So then from that transformation, we're going into the transition line, and that is intended to bridge the gap between the aspirational pie in the sky, like this is what I want in my life, to something that's much more actionable and grounded in reality. And it just makes them aware that this change is possible for them too. And it's not unrealistic for them to have change like this in their life. So you could think about this as like a one-line summary. You know, here I wrote, here are the 3 steps that turned me from the snarky woman on the sideline to the proud woman in the race. It could be something as simple as everything changed, or here are the 3 steps if you're just getting started with X, for example. So you can keep it simple. I do like that in this example because it states again like just with summary of that transformation, just in that one-liner. I think I think it just really drives it home. It's not necessary. So again, you don't have to make it perfect the first time, but that is something that as you practice and get better at it, like those things will help you just make your storytelling even better, you see. So from this transition, we're going from transformation, that outcome right up at the top, to a transition line that's saying like, okay, this is possible for you too. And then we're going to get into a process. All right, so this can be a tip. It could be tricks, it could even be a mindset shift, and what mindset shift they need to make. And then like the logical justification behind that mindset shift, you see. So really what we're going for here in this process stuff is to give them the quick win that they need to realize that they can make a change, because a customer needs a clear path. And this is true, regardless if it's storytelling content or not. When you're selling, giving people a clear path forward either. Again, it could be a mindset shift. It doesn't always have to be these tips and tricks or like chronologically like a process. It could be a philosophy that they can embody, or a series of steps that they could take to solve the problem, because it's going to appeal to their emotional or their logical brain. We certainly buy with emotion first, but we justify it always with logic. And this process step impart that reasoning to making your product, your offer, your way of thinking the next logical step in their mind. It's going to make sense for them. It's not going to feel salesy, it's not going to feel pushy, and it's going to feel really obvious. So in this example, I wrote just a really plain, simple process. I wrote first. I decided to stop calling myself lazy and hype myself up, not pull myself down. Secondly, I committed to 5 minutes. Funny thing about 5 minutes, it snowballs into more. Never doubt the power of momentum. Thirdly, I built it into my routine. I have 4 kids and a company to run. Couldn't get in the way of my responsibilities, so I came up with a simple plan to keep the momentum going even on days I didn't want to show up, which were plenty in the beginning. Okay, so you have these 3 steps here, but really like looking beyond just steps or tips or whatever. What we're doing here, we're saying what we're doing and we're doing it, right? Okay, so like we stopped calling ourselves lazy because we needed to hype ourselves up to do this. We committed to 5 minutes because 5 minutes was enough to build the momentum to keep going, and then building it into a routine was because this routine and this fitness cannot get in the way of all the other responsibilities I have, right? So that's something that she shares with her audience. Her audience is busy too. So we're just justifying that like our reasoning, our approach, and just presenting like how it's a little different than what else is out there on the market, because that's going to take them really easily into this last step, the action step, the call to action, if you will. And really what we're answering in this last step is what I'm supposed to do with this information. Like I see this transformation and I really want something like this. There are actually some tips. I kind of see me fitting those tips into my life. But what do I do? How do I make this a reality for me? So this is the invitation, right? And it does feel like that natural next step, which is why when you do storytelling like this, it's not very salesy. It's plain and simple what the reader should be doing. In this example, if you're looking for a workout routine that doesn't drain your energy or steal hours away from your day, allow me to see you trial and error figuring it out on your own comment guide. And I'll send you my free coach to 5K routine that you can do is in as little as 5 minutes a day. So this is maybe a step above a classic CTA, right? Like the CTA always and any piece of content is, what action step do they need to take? But what I like to do with my storytelling CTA is to draw in little let's say, piece form that transformation way up at the top, right? And draw in the elements of the process and even some of the transition line, right? Like we're trying that narrative together at the end, because that's just going to make that smooth transition in their mind of like, this offer isn't coming out of nowhere. And it's the completeness of the story, it's the end of the story, which is to take this action. So looking for a working out routine that doesn't drain you, that like harkens back to this third step, this 5 minutes a day harkens back to the first step. So you'll see it's like a little bit reflective of some of like the narrative that we already said. So again, this isn't about perfection, especially the first time, but as you're practicing and as you do this more pulling in a little pieces of your narrative into your CTA, makes it more compelling, because it's a good reminder at the end of like why they need to take action and why they need to take action now. So TTPA is a simple framework to start incorporating storytelling pretty much right away. And in the worksheet, if you're not following along already, you're going to find caption carousel, newsletter, templates that you can customize for this framework just by answering a couple of prompts, and I will see you in the next lesson. If you have any questions during the course, just post them right here in the Q&A section. I personally read and reply to every message, and if you enjoyed the course, please take a minute to leave a review. It really helps other students discover the course and support our work at ForgeHub Academy.